Retro Mondays.
Hey, what's happening, gamers? Welcome back to another Retro Mondays, and might I add, only 6 days until Christmas. Oh yeah. Yeah, my voice is still quieter than a church mouse and isn't back 100% yet, so we're just gonna have to do things just like this. Before I forget though, because you won't hear this from hardly anybody these days, Merry Christmas, everyone. Oh yeah, I said Christmas, I went there. Anyway, today's classic game to turn your Monday into a fun day is one game I'm sure many of you are familiar with, the sequel to Super Mario Kart, Mario 64, which released on December 14th, 1996 in Japan for the N64, followed by a February and June release for North America and Europe in 1997. The second Mario Kart game was first revealed to the public as Super Mario Kart R in 1995, though to prevent copyright issues with Sega Saturn's Sonic R, the game was changed to Mario Kart 64. Before the game released, it was tweaked a little bit later in its development, and the feather, which is an item from the last Mario Kart game, was dropped from the second game entirely, though it would reappear again with a different ability in the recently released Mario Kart 7 for the 3DS. For the most part, the character roster remained unchanged from Mario Kart R, except Donkey Kong replaced the Magic Koopa. However, in terms of differences from the past game, this one really stood out among its predecessor. Like with Super Mario 64, Mario Kart 64 is a 3D game except the characters all appear in 2 dimensions. Another huge inclusion was the fact this game could be played with up to 4 players, which was a big deal back in the day, folks. Later, other gaming systems such as the PlayStation would release a multi-tap so it could play with 4 people, though the N64 had this feature built right into the console, which was a first for home systems. Since Mode 7 was replaced by the 3D technology of its day, now the racing courses and the overall environments could be changed as well in 3 dimensions. These changes included that of elevation, inclined stages, more bumps, and ramps, etc., etc. If I'm not mistaken though, this game marked the first time that Charles Martinet provided the voice of both Luigi and Wario. Gameplay for this game is pretty much the same as the first Mario Kart game. Players can choose between 8 playable characters, and all the characters but the Koopa Trooper return, since Wario has actually replaced him and made his debut for this game, though the Koopa Troopa would make various reappearances in later installments, plus return as a starting player in Mario Kart Double Dash and Mario Kart 7. Hopping returns from the last kart game, but drifting now turns into a speed boost, which was pretty cool. Mario Kart 64 features 16 courses to race on. The Grand Prix has 50 to 150 cc's, plus a mirror mode upon completion dubbed the Extra Mode. Time Trial lets you race the clock and gives you 3 mushrooms so you can help better improve your time and then race a ghost. Versus Mode lets you race against 3 of your friends, and also if you're playing with just 2 people, then you can race in the Grand Prix together against a computer. The final mode is a good old balloon battle, and where the rules are simple. There are no rules. Just pop the other player's balloon before they burst yours. Even though this game got cult status among the N64 crowd of gamers back in the mid-90s, the critics and game media gave this game an average score of about 80%, though GameSpot.com actually gave this game a 6.4 out of 10. While everyone pretty much agreed that the multiplayer is where it was at, the single player was not. I don't do this often, but I actually agree with them to an extent. This game's single player just wasn't as good as the classic SNES game, and while it didn't create rubber banding AI, it did prove its existence in video games. How you first notice this is after the first race, the guys in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place from you will be your main competition, and no matter how many times they're knocked out of the running, like magic they reappear behind you almost if they're teleported back into place, and they'll just spam the crap out of you for the remainder of the race. Let me ask you guys something, how is that fair? Playing this game even on 100 cc's will result in gamer rage, trust me. In fact, as I recall, I had to beat 150 cc's playing this with my dad and my sister, and basically using them as bait. Yeah, I know I was pretty horrible, but it was a necessary sacrifice for the day. One last issue I had with this game that some see as a good thing is all the various bugs that are in this game. They're also known as glitches that the player can use to their advantage and win races. From jumping Wario Stadium by using a variation of the moon jump and of course jumping over the bumps, or how about skipping an entire lap in this snowland by just backing up and jumping on top of the terrain. Believe me, this game had a lot more glitches than that I could show, and I don't think it was very good for these glitches to be in the game. Still, I think it was cool that none of these known bugs actually caused the game to break or jam up, and that's pretty impressive from the developers. Although frankly, this game shouldn't have had that many bugs to begin with, and that's all I really had wrong with this game at all. See, I really had to scrape the bottom of the barrel for this one. On to the good stuff. Back when this game released, I was blown away by this game, like majorly. I actually got the N64 a while later than its actual release. In fact, it was on my birthday in February of 1998. I finally beat my last Super Nintendo game, which took me a while because I had like 300 or 400 SNES cards. I can't really remember because I sold them all for my wife's engagement ring, but that's a story for another time. Anyway, I got the system along with an awesome game my dad said that he heard from a sales clerk, which was called Clay Fighter 63 1/3. Now, my dad and I popped Clay Fighter in thinking it would be just as good as Clay Fighter Judgment Clay, and it wasn't. In fact, I recall my dad saying this game wasn't worth the cost of the system. Ouch! So we grabbed our coats, we head out into the snow and down to KB Toys that was going out of business, and had a going out of business sale. I picked up 3 games for real cheap that day, and they were Star Fox 64, GoldenEye, and Mario Kart 64. That was a pretty cool deal if you think about it. Anyway, we went back home and placed Mario Kart 64, and after the logo came up and the music played, my dad was like, now that is more like it. And we were forever hooked on this game. That was one of my best birthdays I ever had, and it was actually the last console my parents would ever buy for me. Oh, basically, I'm done with my stroll down memory lane if you're wondering. Still, if you have a Mario Kart 64 memory, leave it in the comment section below. I'd really love to read it. Anyway, while I don't really want to get into the graphics so much for this video, the reason why my dad and I both like the graphics so much is we'd been so used to playing Super Nintendo games, so 3D gaming for my family back then was a huge deal. In all honesty though, this game really hasn't aged that well, visual-wise. Same goes for the sound, but the music is just as good now as it was back then. Mario Kart 64 featured a brand new composer, this guy! The composer's style was more piano and jazz driven than what you would traditionally hear in video games, and I have to say, it sounded really great and made this game just come to life. Since then, this composer has gone on to do most of the Mario Kart games, and most recently he did the score for Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS. Gameplay for this game was just fantastic! Each racer had a certain weight class, and I thought that was pretty unique. Mario and Luigi were of course the middle class, get it? Middle class. Toad, Peach, and Yoshi were the light racers, and Wario, Bowser, and Donkey Kong were the heavy drivers. Basically, light meant that characters were faster, but they couldn't take a pounding, and heavy meant the characters were slower, but also very strong. My favorite racers to use in this game were Toad and Luigi, and my dad loved to race as Mario and Peach. While I already said I'm not a fan of the bugs in this game, the shortcuts that you didn't need to glitch the game in order to use were pretty fun and made the races even more exciting. After playing so many different Mario Karts over the years, I really missed this feature from Mario Kart 64. If you run into a banana, hit the brake and a music note will appear over your head, and you won't spin out. Let me tell you, that came in handy a lot back in the day, and some people are still surprised by that maneuver. Multiplayer for this game wasn't too shabby at all, though like most early 64 games, if you played this with 4 players, the game tends to slow down just a little bit. The family and I called the 4th player fresh meat, and the sooner he or she was eliminated, the faster we could play the game at ludicrous speed. I mean normal speed. This game had a lot of lasting appeal because of the game's fun factor and multiplayer though, to be honest. The family and I have a lot of fond memories of the Block Fort balloon battles, the donuts, and many more. Aha, good times. Personally, we didn't find versus mode all that fun, and we're always bummed that only 2 other people could race against the CPU while everyone else couldn't. What a drag. Even so, I really do think, graphics aside, Mario Kart 64 has stood the test of time, and is just as fun now as it was back then. Nostalgia aside, many people could tell you why it's one of the best Mario games of all time, but if you've never played this game before, I really suggest you do, because it's just a really rewarding gameplay experience and so much fun to play. Nintendo actually re-released Mario Kart on the Wii's Virtual Console in January of 2007, only 2 months after the Wii released. Check out the game if you haven't already. It's only 1,000 Nintendo points, and this $10 game is definitely worth those Wii points, trust me. Well-made games are still awesome games even after all this time. Now my wife and I really enjoyed playing this game recently, and I really tried to get my dad in on the action like old times, but he gets headaches way too easily now, so gaming is not something he can really do anymore. But Amber happily helped out even though we had the SOPA hearing on in the background. which had us screaming at the live stream and not paying too much attention to racing or battling all that much. By the way, this is very important. If your mom or dad or you have not contacted your local state representative or signed this petition, you need to do so right away. This ruling actually takes effect on Wednesday. It's not taking place in January of 2012 like everyone thought. They're trying to sneak this by on Wednesday. And this doesn't just affect the US. This affects the rest of the world as well. This is a lame bill that guises under the banner of internet piracy, but in reality it's just a bill about censoring the internet altogether. Anywho, assuming this bill doesn't pass, next time on Retro Mondays, Dodger is back with a game both of us simply adored on the Sega Genesis. We're looking at Batman Returns. Not your normal Christmas video game, but a good one, I'll tell you that much. Until then, gamers, I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch, and until we meet again, gamers, God bless and happy gaming. Have a great rest of the day.